Go ahead and get started, and I want to start this week's Wednesday webinar with a poll. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to launch this poll. Oops. And you should be seeing some questions coming up on your screen. There's multiple choice answers, but go ahead and answer the 3 questions for me. And we'll give it a minute or two, and then I will share the results with you. And you can see in the question, I said the past 10 months, because you know, most of our states for a 2-month period in 2020, really couldn't do a whole lot as far as work. So I don't imagine you were holding live open houses for at least a 2-month period. So that's why we're asking about the last 10 months. I see only 2 of you have actually answered the polling questions. Are you seeing them? There we go. Now it's jumping. Okay. Good deal. We're getting there. The quicker you answer, the quicker I can show you the results.
I'm hitting submit and it's not. Oh, wait a second. There's more.
All right, got 45, 46 of you out of 60. We're almost there. Almost there.
Hey, Wendy, can you read the question aloud for some people that maybe are like, you know, getting their coffee or something? And
yeah, absolutely. Kate wants to answer the questions, everyone, and I can't demote her, so she can't see the polling. So question number 1, have you been holding live open houses in the past 10 months? Live open houses. That means in person at the property, seeing people face to face. 52 out of 60 of you have voted. Question number 2. What has been the reason you have held none or only a few live open houses in the past 10 months? Some of the choices were I don't have listings, I don't know how to get an open house, seller doesn't want them due to COVID, so on and so forth. And the third question, what does the general public believe about an open house? What do they think or believe about an open house? So those are your 3 polling questions. 52 of 60 of you have voted. That's 86%. So we're going to go with it, not to delay any further. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the polling, and we're all going to look at the results together. Okay. So are you seeing the results on your screen, everyone? Just give me a head nod, thumbs up. Not yet. Let's share these results. Now you see them. Awesome. All right. So have you been holding live open houses in the past 10 months? No, I have not held any in the past 10 months is the overwhelming majority, 56% of you. Okay. So we'll talk about that a little bit. What has been the reason you have not held any or few in the past 10 months? Don't have any listings. Okay, we're all in that listing inventory shortage. Some of you are newer and you just haven't had opportunity to get those listings yet, so that's understandable. And then number 3, what does the general public believe about an open house? Okay, 50% of you believe they are a good way to start the home search process. And absolutely, that is one step that people are taking as they begin their home search process. They are attending those open houses. All right, so everyone saw the results. We good with them? Stop sharing them? All right, so just a little polling to get you thinking about your open houses and what you've been doing or what you haven't been doing. So let me ask you this. Why do we hold open houses? Feel free to unmute, feel free to put it in the chat, whatever you like. Why do we, as realtors, hold open houses?
To get leads.
To get leads, thank you. How else? Why else? Make the seller happy, meet buyers, good.
Just to
Take up buyers, yeah.
promote your listing.
Kelly, she's servicing that seller. She is promoting that listing. That's one of her marketing strategies. Great. Shireen says market yourself. Absolutely. Sellers want them. Maximize exposure. Absolutely. So there's lots and lots of reasons for us to be holding the open house, right? It's not only about servicing our seller, it's about our brand recognition. It's about our marketing plan. It's about exposure. So lots of different reasons to be doing it. So why aren't we doing it? How come we're not holding open houses? Okay, that's for you to answer on your own. I'm going to go ahead and start the slideshow presentation. But you think about that for yourself. What is preventing you? And evaluate your own practice, your own business. What is preventing you from holding open houses? So I asked you and you all answered, but why we hold the open house? These are the primary reasons and you already answered them, okay? This is nothing new. We hold them to market the property, to promote it, to get the word out there, to be more visible. We definitely hold it for our own advantage to pick up buyers and sellers, right? Buyers unrepresented coming in, sellers in the neighborhood who are interested in comparing their home, or maybe they're actually looking for an agent and it's going to be an interview for you. And of course, branding for yourself, okay? If you are holding open houses, even if it's for another agent, you are promoting yourself as actually out there working if you are marketing that open house, right? So if you are putting out social media posts, if you are sending invitations, whether snail mail or email to your sphere of influence, your sphere of influence sees that you're working. Okay, they don't know, it might not be your listing, they have no idea. So promoting yourself, if you are a newer agent or you're getting back into the swing of things and picking this up full time, remember, it's a great avenue to promote yourself in your business, show people that you're actually working. So this is nothing new to you. It's just a reiteration of what you already know, but a good reminder of why we actually hold the open house, okay? So the bottom line is we need to service our clients. We need to grow our business. So the first step in preparing, you guys tell me, what is your first step? What's the first thing you do in preparing to host, to hold your open house? What do you guys do first? Jeff's
Advertise.
Advertise. Jackie's advertising. April's putting it in the multi-list. Invite the neighbors. Okay, these are all definitely things you're gonna do.
Research the property first.
Julie, research the property first. That's always a good thing. Meredith agrees with you. She's gonna do research, collect some information. Absolutely. So one of your first steps should actually be preparing the seller. Okay. Now, you maybe already do this, and maybe you didn't think to say it out loud or to actually put it in the chat. But one of the first crucial steps is preparing that seller for the open house. Okay. Maybe you are doing the initial preparation at your listing appointment. Maybe it's when you're signing the actual paperwork and you're going over the details of your marketing plan. Okay. So some of the things that we want to discuss with the seller are, okay, when are we holding it and why are we holding it during that time? So are we doing it on a typical Sunday when it's expected, or are we going to do it on a Saturday or both days? Maybe it's a Friday during the lunch hour. If it's a highly walkable area or high traffic area and people are going to be out on their lunch break or what have you, maybe you'll get them to stop in. So whatever makes sense for where the property is for your marketing plan and for the seller's ability to be prepared and accommodate that particular type of open house. Now with COVID-19, let's talk about COVID for a minute, okay? What have you had to do differently to prepare your sellers for open houses with COVID-19? How has it changed?
Everyone has to wear a mask. You have to maybe wear gloves. Try to schedule appointments so there are not so many people in the house.
Absolutely. In the chat, they're saying, minimal guests, provide hand sanitizer, CDC guidelines, limit the number of people. So there's lots of different things that you have to now add and talk about with that seller in order to prepare. And of course, previously, you've always told the seller to make themselves scarce, but available by phone. But now with COVID-19, it's even more important that they're not there, okay? But addressing their concerns, their questions, and how you are going to make it a safe open house is going to be really important as you are preparing to host it and hold it. So make sure that you do spend some time with this. We recently had a seller with COVID-19. He wanted to be present at every showing, not just open house, but he wanted to be there. And then he soon realized that was a big mistake. He decided he didn't want to.
Wendy,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, can you just make me co-host so I can let people in from the waiting room? I'm getting some emails, people are.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. Wouldn't allow me to make, see, it doesn't say co-host, it says host. So maybe I'll just allow them all in.
Yeah, that would be great.
I have no one in the waiting room. It says 0. Sorry, everyone. Sorry for the short technical delay. Please talk amongst yourselves.
Sorry, we're getting emails that people are waiting.
Hold on.
Let me call Kate again.
Hold on. Don't like the waiting room. I keep hitting admit all and it does not allow me. Waiting room. Sorry, everyone.
Had a hard time getting in.
All right. Is that someone who just got in?
Yeah, the
Correct.
attendance just jumped.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in too.
Yeah,
Wendy, you went from
That's
60 to
because
120.
there's a waiting room attached to this webinar.
You can
And
make
it keeps
Natalie
jumping.
you can make Natalie a co-host and she could just monitor that while you.
I don't know whether I'm in or not.
All right, we're on pause for whoever's just joining us. You had difficulty, that's because you were stuck in a waiting room. Technical difficulty, my fault, because multitasking is not my strong suit when it gets over 3 different tasks. Talking to you, looking at the slides, reading your chat messages does not allow for me to easily do the waiting room. Let me see if I can turn the waiting room off. Thank you all for your patience. All right, Natalie, how does it look now? Because I keep hitting it.
I mean, we're at 125 participants, but I can't see if there's people in the waiting room.
Hold on, Christy.
So I don't know how to keep tabs on that if they come in. Good morning, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. So yeah, and you said you can't make me a co-host?
It only allows me to make you a host.
Ridiculous. They've
Whoever's
lost their
happy-
audio.
Sharon, I'm gonna mute you, honey. I don't think you want us hearing what you were just saying. All right. All right, I don't see anyone else in the waiting rooms. Thank you everyone for your patience. This is all recorded too, so we'll be able to look back and laugh at this later. All right.
And yes, we will be sending out the slideshow, and it is being recorded to get put up on YouTube for everyone asking.
Great. All right. So let me get back to my train of thought, everyone. Everyone who is just joining, sorry for your delay in jumping on. That was our fault because you were in a waiting room. And fortunately, you haven't missed a whole lot. But right now we are talking about preparation, and our first step actually be our conversations with the seller, preparing that seller, whether it's a multi-step preparation where you're talking about, open houses as a marketing strategy and all that you do with your open houses on your listing appointment, or as you are getting prepared to launch the listing or the week before, all the things that you're going to talk to the seller about. And we put some emphasis on talking about the seller's comfort and safety concerns regarding COVID-19, that is an area that you want to explore and talk about in case they do have concerns that you want to actually address. Okay, so that's where we are. You're all caught up, I hope. But what I also want to emphasize to you all is that when you are preparing the seller, you are all marketing experts, right? So you are going to go ahead and give them your full multi-tiered marketing plan, if that's what it is, multi-tiered, multi-steps, and a timeline of when you're going to do things. Well, oftentimes your open house should be one aspect, but should also have its own marketing plan, okay? Sharing with that seller, yes, open house is one strategy of marketing the property, but when I actually host that open house to market your property, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what I'm doing 7 to 10 days out or 5 to 7 days out, and here's the various things that I am going to do in promotion of that open house, okay? So I think a lot of the times we don't spend enough time letting the seller know how hard we are working on only this one aspect of our marketing plan. So keep that in mind. If that is not part of your typical delivery, that is something that you may want to actually focus on as you optimize your open house opportunities, okay? With preparing the seller, whether at that listing appointment or paperwork appointment or the week before you're actually holding your open house, what are you giving them? What are you saying to them to help them prepare? Okay, there are tools that we do have, and I will actually send out a bunch of resources along with today's recording and slides to help you prepare, help you talk to the seller. So this is just one example that we have available to us in Howard Hanna presentations, and you can just have it as a standalone piece, print it out as a standalone piece to give to them after your listing appointment or paperwork appointment to help them prepare, because they actually are a teammate of yours, okay? They are going to help you prepare this property to show it in its best light, okay? And we know we want to protect our sellers, right? So are you actually doing this and helping them with visuals so that it can be the most effective open house for you and the seller? Just emphasize your team working together and give them those visuals, those checklists, if you will. Along the bullet points here to the left are just some examples of how that seller can help you prepare. So in your own business, just ask yourself, evaluate, are you having this conversation? Okay, at what point are you having it? Are you having it multiple times so that as a team, you are working together to have the best open house? Okay, so in your business, how are you preparing that seller? In addition to preparing the seller with the house physically and for safety and all of that, are you discussing with the seller certain questions that you may be asked at the open house? So whether it's your listing or another agent's listing, you are representing the seller. you're going to get certain questions at your open house. So I'm going to stop sharing and ask you for a moment, what are some typical questions that buyers are asking at open houses? What are some questions you guys get? Feel free to unmute, put it in the chat, whatever you prefer.
Why are the sellers moving?
Why are the sellers moving, Jay? That is like such a popular question. I always, sarcastically in my head say, why? Is that going to matter whether you like or don't like the house? But of course we don't. But to answer that question, why are the sellers moving? Do you have the seller's permission to actually tell that, to give that answer? You're not allowed to answer that unless your seller gave you permission, everyone. I hope you all realize that. And I'm sure from time to time, we do answer questions that we probably shouldn't. So some of the questions you guys have put in the chat, are there any recent renovations? How old is the roof? How old is the HVAC updates? What do you think of the neighborhood? Property lines. Property lines is one that is often asked. And of course, if we don't have a survey and we're not a surveyor and there's not stakes, we don't know, do we? So if you guys check out the chat, these are a lot of questions that you get asked, but do you have permission to actually answer some of them? So if they're about the seller, then you need permission, okay? So the number one thing that they often ask is, why is the seller selling? Why are they moving? So have permission to be able to answer that. How long has it been on the market? Okay, in today's market, in most of our areas, it's probably not very long. And if chances are, it might actually already be contingent, right? Okay, so how much will they take? Well, I'm pretty sure since they're asking X, they're definitely going to take X, right? Okay, so just anticipate the questions, okay? So take a look at the chat and jot some down if you have never been asked these questions, but anticipate what the buyer's going to ask you, what the neighbors are going to ask you, and make sure you have the answers. And for those questions that are more confidential, get the seller's permission to actually give those answers. Okay, so those are just some thoughts and ideas, an additional step to help you be able to have an effective open house. Okay. Now, many of you said your first step was to do some research, right? And it's a great first step, absolutely. It's definitely a step that we all should be taking. So if you are the listing agent, you probably know all of these answers, right? But if you're not the listing agent, and for some of you who haven't been holding live open houses and you're saying it's because you don't have listings, well, go hold them for the people that do, right? We want to grow our business. We want name recognition, brand recognition. Then let's get out there. There's no reason why you can't be holding them for other agents. But if we are the listing agent, we probably know the answers to these questions, okay? What kind of updates, what special features? So one tactic you might want to take is, whether it's your seller or not, get a personalized tour from the actual seller. Even if you're holding it for, someone in your office, you want to go out there and meet that seller ahead of time. The seller will probably appreciate it, be comfortable knowing who's going to be in their house the whole day. And it gives you an opportunity to be more of an expert on the house before you hold the open, to know where all the entry points and exit points are, to point out anything that is, valuable or safety item that you might want to address. But if you ask that seller for that tour, they're going to sell you the house. Say, all right, give me the nickel tour. Tell me everything about it. Tell me what you've done to it. Tell me what you love. Tell me what the special features are, and point them out so I know where to find them. So know the house the best that you can, even if it's not your listing. One of the ways that you can know the house and not have to memorize everything is, of course, while you're at your open house, having information accessible to you right in front of you. So when I hold open houses, I actually carry a clipboard. It's a pretty fancy one. It doesn't have to be fancy though. And I have my complete agent full printout from your multi-list, right? That has all of the information on it. So I'm going to carry that around with me so that I don't have to memorize what the taxes are when they ask. It's going to be right there. I carry around with me the closing or the disclosure. So when they ask those, questions about how old is something, I'm going to be able to quickly look down in front of me and actually tell them how old something is according to the seller if they know. Okay. So do yourself a favor, have that information available at your fingertips, not necessarily having to memorize it. And then, of course, people coming into your open house may be interested in that community, but maybe not that particular house. Or the sellers that are looking to sell their properties in that community are coming in and they're, checking out the property to compare, or they're checking you out. So you really need to be the market expert. So do you have that data available? When you did research, did you do research on the neighborhood? Do you have all of the comparative data with you? Okay. Do you know where the nearest elementary school is, or where you feed into? So for that particular house and neighborhood, question that I always got, that I got hung up on when I was a new agent, is which elementary does this house feed into? And I never knew the answer in the beginning of my career because I didn't think to ask it. I didn't have children. It wasn't my listing, so I didn't know the answer. But guess what? School district is one of the most important factors of why buyers buy where they buy. So do you know which particular elementary that home feeds into? Okay, so write that down as a question to know as you are getting to know and preparing for your open houses. Okay. Any questions so far? Any comments? I see there's some things in the chat. Okay, some of you are having difficulty getting open houses even when you ask. Yeah. Ask your manager to help you. And also know that you don't have to do open houses, everyone, just for agents in your office. Okay. So if there's a particular area, zip code, municipality, school district that you want to be working in, have you set yourself up on a Real Scout search? Number one, so you can be the expert on what's hitting the market and selling. Number two, so that as soon as that new listing comes in that area, you're looking to see, all right, who's the listing agent? Are they a Howard Hanna agent? And reaching out to them immediately and offering your services. Maybe you live in the neighborhood. Maybe you know a lot of people there, but offering your services to any Howard Hanna agent, not just the agents in your office. Maybe that will open up some of your opportunities to hold open houses for others. So let's do our research. Let's be the market experts and have this data available, folks. Okay, have it at your fingertips, but also have it as a potential takeaway for the attendees at the open house. Okay, so let me ask you this question. You can put it in the chat or unmute. How many of you have held an open house where the buyer actually walked in and bought the house? Anyone have that experience? Janet was lucky enough, and hopefully, Janet, you represented them. Oh, mostly no's. You haven't. Okay. And that's because, statistically speaking, only 1/10 of 1%. Everyone got that? 1/10 of 1% of buyers find their house through an open house. 10% of buyers find their house from a sign. So whether a for sale sign or an open house sign, okay? So statistically speaking, chances of that buyer walking in and that being the house that they purchase, it's not very likely, okay? So you want to have other options for them. Okay, that house may not be right for them. It may already be gone. It may be too expensive. It may not be big enough. They may not love it, and we know they need to love it. So have other options available for them. Okay, have a printout of what is available and on the market within the neighborhood or within the school district even, and have it at different price points. Okay, so maybe 20% higher than the house you're sitting, maybe 20% lower than the house you're sitting, maybe one more bedroom or one less bedroom. but know that inventory so that you have that available so you can not only speak to it, but maybe perhaps offer other options once you've determined that that's not the house for them, okay? So in addition to preparation, we're going to distinguish ourselves. We're going to do our research. We're going to become the market expert, even if it's only the market expert for that weekend, that day, okay? So to help you out, are you doing some of these things? Okay, you evaluate your own business and see what you can add to help yourself out. Are you touring and knowing the inventory? Whether you're touring by looking at the properties online and writing notes about them or memorizing things, or if you do print out all the available properties in the area, are you taking notes on them because you looked at the pictures? Or are you physically actually touring them? Okay, that's going to help you stand out when you can actually speak specifically to a property. The FSBOs that are on the market in the neighborhood that you're holding the open house. Okay, have you checked those out? Do you know that they exist? Okay. And of course, anything that you can know personally about the neighborhood or the other sales in that neighborhood is really going to help you stand out. So one of the bullet point examples on here is calling people by their name. So if there is another competing house for sale, did you look it up and know that it's, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Okay. And that you can say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have their house for sale over at 123 Main Street, and they have one less bedroom and their listing price is X. Okay. It just makes you look like an expert. Okay. Any questions or anything you guys want to add about how you go about preparing or distinguishing yourself? Feel free to put it in the chat, unmute, share at your leisure. We already talked a little bit about knowing the market as another aspect of preparing and distinguishing yourself from the thousands of other agents out there. So ask yourself, what are you preparing? And what do you know? Do you know the list price to sale price ratio for that community, that school district, for that particular style and type of house? Okay. Do you know what the average days on market? Now this seems like a lot, guys, but actually, if you're using your multi-lists well, this could be as easy as searching for all active and sold contingent properties within a mile radius or 3-mile radius, whatever it is, and printing out a simple report. It can be that easy, okay? In addition, what are you demonstrating while you're at your open house? Now, open houses can be challenging to showcase all that you have and all that you are. So think about that. Think about how you're going to showcase the resources and tools that you are. Okay, Mary Demas, she's a manager of the Beaver Chippewa offices in Pittsburgh. She does a wonderful display with big poster boards that she puts throughout the house. And it has various things on it, loan information from her loan officer. So whether she gets a flyer for that particular house or she gets a flyer with the rates, they're different tools. So maybe one of your, poster boards is, how are you looking for a home? Here are some tools that I use to help my buyers look for homes, and having something about Real Scout, having your mobile app there and how they can get that, okay? In case you don't have opportunity to offer those things verbally, maybe have them visual, okay? Maybe have them as takeaways for your attendees to show your level of professionalism, your expertise, your tools, and why they would perhaps want to use you. Ambika is asking, what do you mean by month supply? There are 2 ways to evaluate price. One, we use comparative data. Another way we use absorption rate. So look up absorption rate pricing, Ambika. Absorption rate pricing is one way to go about pricing something, and it tells you how many months supply of homes there are on the market. It also lets us know whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. Now, all of us We don't have to do that data. We know it's a seller's market. We know there's not enough houses on the market for our buyers. And we also know that in a month's time that the inventory is very limited and sells incredibly quickly. So the month supply is going to be very, very short, very small, if you will. So hopefully that explains it a little bit to you, but check out Ambika. Thank you. Sorry, Ambika. So check out or research what is absorption rate pricing, and it'll give you more details. Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. All right, so we want to distinguish ourselves. Ask yourself, how am I getting the message across that I know the market trends? How am I showing I'm a market expert? How am I showing I'm a professional? Besides verbally, what do I have to demonstrate to those attendees that you're on the cutting edge of technology when it comes to real estate and that they probably should use you? So are you using a device with open to close, having them scan a QR code, sharing with them your mobile app as your business card? Whatever it is, ask yourself, how am I doing that, and make a plan to do it so that you can capture more leads, if you will. So 1 week prior to an open house, we know that we need to have a strategy, right? Strategy about how we're going to go ahead and promote our open house, how we're going to get as many people as possible there, how we're going to create excitement. So these are some recommendations for you 1 week prior to your open house, if you've given yourself the time to have 1 week before your open house. Remember, if it's your listing, you're in control of when you launch it, how you launch it, when things are scheduled. You're in control and can guide that seller. So make sure that you are taking advantage of that so that you can have open houses. In addition, you know, a lot of people say, well, the properties are already gone. They're already contingent before my open house is scheduled to be held. But that's okay. If you know how to sell it to your seller from the very beginning, you can still hold that open house without problem. So how you might sell it to your seller is, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my goal of my marketing plan is to bring you multiple offers. And one of the strategies I use is to hold and schedule an open house, because the general public believes that open houses sell houses. And when a would-be buyer sees the property on Saturday and that there's an open house on Sunday, it gets them off the fence of whether they're going to put an offer in or not, because they have a fear of loss. Okay. And in addition to that, Mr. and Ms. Seller, if we get multiple offers, it's going to be up to you of when we want the deadline for highest and best to be. We can make that deadline after the open house. We can make it at the beginning of the open house. But I want to hold the open house, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because it's part of my marketing strategy. So no matter where we are in the process. And secondly, I want to make sure that if possible, we have backup offers, okay? Because of the market conditions and people paying so much over asking price, and if they are having inspections, we're having a lot of fall throughs, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So just want to prepare you for that. The hardest part of my job is going to be keeping that deal together when you accept an offer. That's going to be the hardest part of my job. And I can't control other people's behaviors and actions. But if I hold that open house, it increases the likelihood that we have backup offers in hand. Should someone back out of the first offer, we can go immediately into the second offer, not lose marketing time, not have to put the house back active and entertain more showings. So it's really imperative that we still hold our open house no matter where we are in the process, okay? So do you think you can sell that to your seller and that a seller will understand and support it? So just know how to do that. And if you believe in it, you'll be able to sell it. It won't take much to have that seller still entertain an open house, even if they did accept an offer and they're contingent, okay? I'm just going to mention one thing on this slide. Select selling features and benefits. Special feature cards. Think about it. Little tent cards with a heavier paper stock, okay? Whether it's your listing or not your listing. Think about special feature cards that highlight what something is, or a brand name, if you will, around the house. So when I would have my listings, and if the house had lots of special features or upgrades and name brand appliances or special windows that I know are desirable, I'm going to put special feature cards around the house, okay? Because if I can't be with every showing and I can't be with every single person all the way through a house, I want them to know those details. Or if there's a special, spice rack that's, hidden, on the side of the stove and it's a pull-out one, I want them to know it's there, okay? So think about that as part of your strategy for marketing the property, okay? So if you're lucky enough that you have a week to prepare, what is going to be your game plan, everyone? What are you going to do to promote that open house? Okay. Remember, this isn't just about the house. The house, of course, is primary, but this is also about you and your business. Okay. So are you sending invitations, whether that's email or snail mail? Are you circle prospecting? Have you heard of circle prospecting? Those of you who've grown up, Hannah, you know it as 5, 5, and 10, or 10, 10, and 20, okay? So are you knocking on doors? Are you mailing to the neighbors? If you're getting phone numbers, are you calling the neighbors, okay? The reason why we circle prospect, or 5, 5, 10, 10, 10, 20, is because statistically speaking, when an for sale sign goes up in that front yard, within 7 doors, another for sale sign's going up. So it's a numbers game. So let's not even go with 7. Let's go with as many as possible and hit as many of the neighbors as possible and have touch points as many times as possible. So if you have the time, and this is a great marketing strategy, are you calling the neighbors? Are you mailing to them? Are you knocking on their doors, whether it's the day before or the morning of? Are you holding a special neighbor preview? Okay. So special neighbor preview. Why do we hold special neighbor previews? Anyone? Feel free to unmute, put in the chat. Why might you consider holding a special preview just for the neighbors? Because neighbors know people. That's a good one, April. In case they might want to sell, absolutely. You want to get in front of the next seller? Good.
They might want to choose their own neighbor.
They always, Gina, you're absolutely right. Who's invested more in who buys that house than the neighbor? Absolutely. They might know someone who wants to live in the neighborhood. Very good, Jeff. Get the nosy neighbors out of the way. Brock, I love it. So let's go ahead and look and see how many of you agree with the next slide. Why hold a neighbor preview, everyone? Well, we know that there are nebby neighbors. We know that they are going to come to the open house, at least one, right? If you've all held an open house and you've talked to them, you've heard from at least one neighbor. They're always curious and they're going to show up. Well, if we're in COVID times and it's really important that we try to convert as many people as possible at the open house, we kind of want to get them out of the way, right? We want to eliminate their participation during the public open time because they may just be nebby, okay? And we don't want to be spending time with the nebby, very talkative neighbor when there might be someone else who needs our services at that moment. It also will give you quality time to figure out whether they are interested in selling. Give you quality time to figure out whether they know someone that wants to live in the neighborhood, okay? Encouraging them to call them up, inviting them out to the open house, okay? And of course, it increases your brand awareness, okay? So when we circle prospect, our 10, 10, and 20, or 5, 5, and 10, whatever number you put on it, that's why I call it circle prospecting, it increases your touch points. So if it's a neighborhood, your farm area, where you want to be doing business, Look at all those opportunities you get to put your name and Howard Hanna in front of everyone. Okay? It's going to take at least 18 times for your name and your brand to be in front of those people before they start to recognize and remember you. So the open house just gives you that extra opportunity to get that awareness much more quickly. And then, of course, when those neighbors come in during your special preview, you might learn more about the neighborhood than you ever wanted to know. And it just makes you more of an expert when you hold the public open house, giving you things to talk about or highlight, perhaps. Okay. So if you're not holding neighbor previews, think about it. Think about those special invitations because of these simple reasons. Okay. Because not everyone who's coming to your open house is actually a buyer. The sellers are coming out to vet you out. So with that, do you have something to direct them to? Okay, if you're gonna hold the neighbor preview, then think about this. Do you have a marketing piece on you? Do you have a special brochure? Is your website up to date and something you would direct them to? Okay, so remember that sellers are coming in, especially during your neighborhood preview. How professional are you going to look to them? What takeaways will they actually have? Consider having a marketing piece just about you, everyone. Okay. All right, so we're going to continue with our strategies of our week's worth of marketing, if you will, around this open house. So whether it's your listing or someone else's listing, are we getting our signs up early? Okay, open house Sunday, 1 to 3. Well, hopefully that sign's going out on Monday, so every neighbor or every car that goes by sees that sign early. Okay, it just increases the likelihood of the foot traffic at the property. Is it in coordination with Sunday Showcase of Homes? Now, I know in a lot of our areas that's suspended right now, but it's something to consider. If you're going to put it on Sunday Showcase of Homes when it comes back, or if it is back in your marketplace, are you holding an open house in conjunction with that televised marketing piece? Okay. Your social media. Okay, virtual open houses, everyone. Even if you're not doing virtual open houses, you guys know social media is huge. So what aspects of social media are you using and how often leading up to your open house? Because one time doesn't cut it, everyone. And are you target marketing when you put those social media pieces out? And what I would also emphasize is, there's no such thing as a weekend for you as a realtor, right? Okay, there's no such thing as a weekend. Hopefully you do schedule a day off or 2 a week for yourself and prioritize other aspects of your life. But if you're holding a typical open house on a Sunday, it really should be a work day, everyone. Make it a full work day and make sure that you are knocking on the neighbors' doors ahead of time, having the neighbor preview. But after your open house, making sure you've blocked off time to take people out that you may have met at the open house, maybe to write an offer, at the very least, to do follow-up contact with those who attended. Whether that's phone calls, hopefully, whether that's making sure your open to close Spacio app is all set up to send out emails. Make sure that you use it as an actual work day so that you can convert as a result of your open house. And a part of your strategy, especially during COVID, do you need more than one agent? Okay, so is this going to be a property that draws a lot of attention? Well, we all know that every property is drawing a lot of attention. So I can think of 2 open houses I was participating in post shutdown, post stay-at-home order. So we're talking about May, June, that time frame. Open house where we had 5 people working this open house. Okay, someone at the door, someone inside, maybe one on each floor, someone in the backyard, and then someone at the carriage house in the back. And in between, we had food. We had someone grilling hot dogs and soda and all of that. People coming to your open houses, folks, they're not afraid of COVID, okay? Just remember that. Yes, there's precautions and we're going to take care of all those precautions and they'll be safe as well. But if they're afraid of COVID, they're not coming to your open house. So have an event, but think about how many people are coming and what kind of support am I going to need? If you're going to need a second agent, then ask someone in your office and share the leads. Okay, every other one. Be trade off on who's greeting the person at the door, and that particular person is going to be your person, your lead, if you will. So think about that as you're strategizing, preparing, marketing, and actually holding the open house. So my guess is the majority of you may not be holding virtual open houses at this point, because over 50% of you are not necessarily holding live open houses. You're probably not holding virtual as well. But in evaluating your business, I want you to think about, why should you hold a virtual? A virtual in tandem with that live open house, or a virtual as a standalone? Okay. One of the top reasons is because everyone expects it. Okay. We're not going to get away from this golden modern age of technology, folks. COVID just sped it along by 4 to 5 years. Okay. It's here to stay. So people really expect it. So maybe you do the special neighbor preview for 30 minutes, and then you do your virtual open house where you simply tour everyone through a Facebook event, and you're doing it live, and then you hold your live open house. Okay. That virtual open house can be held anytime, any day, and when it's recorded, it's got a long shelf life. You can use that over and over again, and on all your different, websites, or YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel. You can put it in your HANA presentations as an example of what you do to service your listings. So if you haven't started virtual open houses, consider that. So if you're a new agent right now and you haven't done any open houses and they're hard to find, well, you can always ask those agents in your office, well, do you mind if I hold a virtual one? Okay. Because it doesn't really put the seller out. The seller may be at work and you just schedule to go at a certain day and time. You can hold that virtual open house any day, any time. And it just increases the exposure of that property, increases the exposure of you. So evaluate your strategies, your marketing plan. Are you holding virtual open houses? Okay. And don't be afraid of how you look and sound. We're all going to have to get over that, because frankly, none of us are experts at it unless you've got a makeup and a hair person and a production studio and a professional camera. People don't care about that. What people care about is that you're real and they're there to check out the house, not necessarily you. So put the emphasis on the house. The video doesn't have to be on you for very long, except at the very beginning, maybe at the very end. And if you're going to do the virtual open house, you're going to capture leads with using your Spacio open to close registration link. Okay, if you were on the last Wednesday webinar, they taught you that. We've got lots of videos on it. So use it if you're going to do it. Some additional things to think about to create excitement about your open house, to stand apart from the pack and be a green penguin, is, can you make your open house part of a larger event? So if there is any inventory in the area, can you coordinate with those other agents, whether they're HANA agents or co-broke agents, doesn't matter. Can you call them up and say, hey, why don't we hold an open house event? Or maybe as part of a twilight tour for the company, whatever it might be. Do you have a theme? Early in my career, no matter what month it was, when I was holding an open house, I had a theme. Okay, whether it was, Valentine's Day in the month of February. So my theme would be all about hearts and Valentine's Day and spring. Spring's right around the corner. So my April theme would all be about, flowers and springtime and all of that. So you can create a theme. I know one agent who loves Mexican margaritas, and for her theme, it's always Mexican. She serves soft tacos and margaritas at every single one of her open houses, and people come just for the food, right? Okay. Some other things to consider, we've already talked about a little bit, are your takeaways for the people. Doesn't cost much to get a case of small water bottles, print out labels with your marketing information on them as a takeaway, okay? I once held an open house, South Fayette. I had tons of people through. I was still training and being a mentor, and I made the cardinal mistake of not following up after my open house. Well, fortunately, when I'm at my open house, I'm on, okay? So I really pay attention to people. Well, this one particular couple, they had 3 girls, and I always gave out candy bags. Go to the dollar store, birthday bags, the little cellophane bags with twist ties. You can get a pack of like 30 of them for $1. Shoved them with candy, had my business card inside. You better believe those girls went away with more than 1 bag of candy. You better believe that I gave those girls free reign to look at everything and check it out and go pick out your room, whatever it is. I didn't follow up with that couple, with those 3 girls. But guess what? They followed up with me, okay? Because of the attention I paid to the girls, because I gave them the candy that had my business card in it, okay? Most of the time, business cards get thrown away, everyone. Business card was in it. They remembered me. They remembered how I treated their daughters. They called me because I did a bad thing and I didn't follow up with them. I did end up being their agent, and I did end up selling them a $400,000 house just because I paid attention, had a good takeaway from my open house. Okay, so what are your people taking away from your open houses that will cause them to call you? Ask yourself that. Okay. All right, we're going to stop a second and I'm going to ask you a question. To tour or not to tour? It's a debatable thing. When you have people coming into your open house, are you walking around with them or are you not walking around with them? Tell me, everyone, what's your opinion? There's no wrong answer here. Are you touring or not touring? Penny, you're shaking your head. Is that a no? You're not touring with them? Stephanie says not touring.
That's correct. I don't tour with them.
It says not touring.
I do.
Christine does. Okay. Rose does. Okay. Charlene, no.
I think it all depends on the individual. I think you have to read the person to see if they're engaging with you, or just picking up on body language is really critical. They may be the type of people like, no, we just want to do this on our own, or they may want to engage.
I would agree 100% with that. Absolutely. But really, there is no wrong answer. Cheryl's right. You got to read that person. Okay. Read that person, their body language coming in to know. Okay. What's the first thing you guys ask when they come through the door? Does anyone have a standard first thing they ask as they come through the door? Well, I ask, what brings you out today? Okay. What brings you out today? What's bringing you into the open house today? Was hopefully they're going to tell me right off, well, my agent sent me. Wonderful. Who's your agent? What's their name? What brokerage are they with? Maybe I know them. Let me reach out to them and thank them for sending you. But I'm going to find out typically right away whether they're unrepresented or not, because either their agent sent them or they saw the open house on a website or they saw the sign. But if they don't tell me that their agent sent them, guess what? They're mine, right? I'm going to make them my best friend. And so to tour or not to tour, you need to read them, absolutely. But our number one goal, what is our number one goal besides selling that house, everyone, representing that seller? Put that to the side for a minute. When that open house attendee comes in, what's your number one goal?
New client.
New client. And how do we make them our new client? We make them our new client by getting them to like us, finding something in common, and being able to offer them a service, okay? So when we are touring, deciding to tour or not to tour, how are you building rapport and likability? So I want you to ask that of yourself. There's no judgment, there's no right or wrong answer, but if our goal is to convert them, to build likability, find something in common to build that rapport, We have to at least be in conversation range, folks. Okay? Because if you're not having conversation, you're not building that rapport. If they're touring on their own, okay, how are you going to kind of capture them and keep them in an area to actually develop rapport? Okay? So you think about it. There's no right or wrong answer. But if your number one goal is to convert those unrepresented individuals at that open house, we need to focus on Ford, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams as we are getting them to like us, as we are figuring out, do they need us? Okay, so you decide for yourself, tour or not to tour, focusing on Ford. You gotta have conversation, everyone. If you don't create the opportunity for conversation, we're not gonna be able to easily convert them, okay? So think about your strategy and what you do or what you could do differently, okay? During COVID, it's actually made it a little easier for us because whether we're having multiple agents or we're only touring or letting one group in at a time, we've kind of got this audience, right? So we can have conversation without disruption or worrying about who isn't getting attention or what have you. So right now you have a perfect opportunity to be asking Ford questions, to be determining whether you can provide them a service, offer them a service, okay? Here's another one for you. What do you guys do about sellers' disclosures? Do you hand them out to everyone? Do you have one on the counter? Do you only keep one? What do you do about sellers' disclosures, everyone? Because everybody wants one, right? Whether they like the house or not. April keeps a master. Good for you, April. April will email them later if they want one. Tracy keeps it on the counter, okay? But there's no right or wrong answer. There's different strategies, everyone. So like I said, I get my clipboard, I keep my seller's disclosure right there, but also I create entire marketing packets for each and every person, okay? Whatever information I want them to have, one of them includes the seller's disclosure, okay? Because if my target goal is to make them my best friend while I'm there, to convert them while they're there, doesn't really matter to me if I'm in control of that seller's disclosure or not, because that's my strategy, my goal going into it, okay? So some people don't like to give the seller's disclosure because if the buyer wants it, then they can verify email and send it later, all that. Yeah, okay. That's one strategy. There's nothing wrong with it. You want to be in control of the information. That's okay. So think about what your strategy is regarding that seller's disclosure, because that's a powerful thing. But also remember, they want that seller's disclosure just out of curiosity, okay? That's what they want. But what you want is you want to make them your best friend and new client, okay? And then do you have a strategy for where and how your conversation goes with them? Okay, so the bullet point here says leading questions. Do you ask of every single person the same questions to kind of lead them to whether they're interested in the house, lead them to being able to offer your services? What do you actually do? Do you prepare for this? So one way that I always do it is that I do tour from a distance, okay? I'm not following them into rooms. I'm not leading them into rooms. I'm not Vanna White saying, this is the kitchen and here's the dishwasher. I'm not doing that. I'm staying within conversation range behind them, developing rapport, asking them about where they live and children and where they work and all this kind of stuff, developing that rapport. But when I'm done kind of touring with them, having the conversation, we usually end up on, the back deck or backyard or back to the kitchen where I already have, cookies and water, whatever for them. And so what I'm going to ask them is, all right, guys, I asked this of all the buyers I work with on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, it was a complete waste of time for you to tour this house. 10, you're in love with it. You'd buy it today. If money was no object, where do you rank this house for yourself? Okay, so I ask them, and if it's, 2 people, they always look at each other to kind of confer, and I'll say, no. You each had your own minds and opinions before you came together. Each of you has a number. What's your number? And so it kind of breaks the ice, makes them smile, makes them laugh most of the time. And they'll give me a number and I'll tell them what their number means. Okay. In most markets, an 8 means love because 10, there's no such thing as perfection. Houses and spouses, you make compromises. So if you are an 8 or better, you're in love. Are you ready to write an offer? Is this the one for you? If you're below 8 in most markets, then there's something not quite right about the house, not fitting. So, you know, you're on the fence at a 7. So what is it missing? Okay, what doesn't it have, or what about it isn't, you know, really your style? So I'm going to learn a little bit more about them, give them their, you know, numbers, what they need. So I'm going to figure out, all right, are we moving towards a contract right now? Or is this house not theirs, which probably it isn't? And then I'm going to ask them the all important question. All right, guys, so how are you looking for home sweet home? What methods and strategies are you looking for houses for today? The number one answer, if they're unrepresented, is typically that nasty Z word. Okay. And so what I'm going to say is, oh yeah, everyone loves Zillow. I love Zillow. I love Zillow primarily because the information is often inaccurate and it just shows my clients and customers how much they need me. So do you think it's important to you that the minute a house hits the market that you potentially are going to love, that you get notification of that instantly and that that information is accurate? Do you think that's important to you? So I'm asking them questions so that they're saying yes. Well, then guess what? I've got 2 great tools for you right now that you can start using to help you in the process. And then I'm going to sell my services, everyone. I'm going to sell Real Scout Search in the app. I'm going to share my mobile app with them, okay? Because if they are unrepresented and they're just focused on, you know, that big Z out there, which is typically the case, I'm going to give them something better, something personalized, something that fits their needs. Typically, I've got them saying yes up to that point. They're ready and willing to accept whatever I have to offer them, okay? And then if I find out they're a first-time home buyer, I'm going to offer out, okay, well, this is what I do with all my first-time home buyers, is I like to actually teach you about the home buying process before you start. I like to teach you about what's going on in the market so you can anticipate and know what to expect before you get into the market. Does that sound like something that would be beneficial to your home search process? If they're not represented, guys, they're saying yes, okay? And then it gives me an opportunity to do a buyer's consult with them, whether in person or via Zoom. So what are your leading questions that are going to allow you to offer them a service, to find out if they want to move forward, okay? Analyze what your strategy is and have a strategy and use it with every single open house and every single person, okay? I don't want to harp on, you know, fair housing. This is not a fair housing webinar, but you need to be offering this out to every single person. Okay, it's a numbers game. The more you offer it, the more you're going to have leads and convert them. So on these next couple slides, there's just some trial close questions. If you haven't developed your technique, your strategy, some different things that you can say to qualify them, to figure out whether this is the house for them, and making sure that you're focusing on the right people while at your open house. Because, you know, eventually we're going to have more than one family or one group in an open house at a time. And it's going to be really important for you to vet and, you know, scrub those people coming in the door to know who to spend the most time with. You're going to spend time with everyone, but who am I going to narrow in on and spend the most time? Who do I have the opportunity to convert? So just make sure that you have a strategy, okay? A closing technique. And a lot of the times we don't think about this. We rely on our personality and our charisma, but be intentional, everyone. Be intentional about how you're going to close your conversation, close for a contract, close for an appointment. And you guys will get this in the slides, so you don't need me to read it to you and reiterate the points. I think I gave you a long-winded explanation of how I do it. And then, of course, the all-important critical follow-up, okay? I told you there are many, many times where I did not follow up with my open house attendees, shame on me. Okay, it's one of the things that we are not so good at. That's why our companies create all kinds of programs and systems for us so that it can be foolproof, if you will. So we have lots of technology and tools at our disposal to follow up, but are we employing them? Okay, we know that phone calls are a high valuable touch point as opposed to an email, but do we rely solely on that email? Okay, I would encourage you to start making calls if you haven't made that part of your follow-up plan. Okay, it's more personalized, it'll get you answers quicker, and they will actually appreciate it. Okay, so do your follow-up, make phone calls. If you didn't get feedback from them at the open house, ask for feedback. People love to give their opinion. When I would have people sign in, whether a written sign in or using Spacio's open to close app, I would always ask a question. Would it be okay if I follow up with you to get your opinion and feedback about the house? Okay, people are okay with that aspect, but that just allows for more conversation to take place if they already say yes. Okay, so all important, make sure you do follow up, make sure you use whatever tools and technologies are easy for you, because if they're not easy for you, then you probably won't use them. This is just a reminder that your open to close will help you capture leads, capture that information, and automatically puts it into Real Scout so you're staying in front of them. And what do the open house attendees want? They want to see properties. So when you use open to close, Real Scout kicks in automatically, and they're automatically receiving properties based upon the demographic of that particular house they attended virtually or live, doesn't matter. And then of course your Real Scout will dump into your Engage CRM. And if you're using your campaigns, it's just another touch point, okay? So if you use the tools and technologies, if you simply make phone calls, you will absolutely have a better conversion rate from your open houses. How are we doing on time, everyone? Not bad, considering we had technical difficulty in the beginning. Any questions, comments? Hopefully you got a few nuggets to take away, or at least a few questions to ask yourself to evaluate how much time are you actually spending preparing, strategizing, differentiating yourself. There's lots of different things you can do. We do not expect you to do them all, but please do them with intention. Okay?
Wendy, could you maybe give an example of how you would follow up with like an attendee's agent?
Oh, absolutely. So before open and close Spacio, I would have a written sign in. And guys, use whatever works for you. Okay? Use what works for you, because you can take that written sign in and put it into open to close later manually if you want to. But how I handle that, Julie, is when they come in and I ask them, all right, so what brings you out today? And they tell me my agent sent them. Wonderful. What's your agent's name and what brokerage are they with? They can't answer you in 10 seconds. They're just keeping you at arm's length, right? So then it becomes a challenge to me to win them over. So I work even harder. So I'll say, wonderful. Come on into the kitchen where I've got some information for you and my sign-in sheet. And when you sign in and give me your information, put your agent's name down so I can reach out to them and thank them for sending you and ask your agent if you have any questions. So that's how I do the follow-up with agents. Is that an answer to your question, Julie?
But then like when you do, then you do actually call the agent and
Yeah,
just
I absolutely
build that-
call agents. Yeah,
Okay.
because number one, if they're really not their agent and they just gave me a name, I'm
True.
really doing that agent a favor, really. But I do have that contact information if, I get the sense that that agent doesn't know who it actually was. But then I also build my reputation as being ethical, reaching out to that agent to say, hey, your client so-and-so came in. I just wanted to see if they've reached out to you with any questions or feedback, or do they have any interest in the house? Just build your reputation, Julie, out there with other agents. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions, thoughts, ideas, anything you guys are doing that you think is unique that you would be willing to share with the group? Tracy's like, yeah, I wish. All right, everyone. And then,
I have a quick question.
yeah, Charlene.
I used the Spacio open to close for my first open house last Sunday.
Great.
And I did have 2 people write on a piece of paper and then I put them in there. And so they're a contact.
Great.
And I did the broadcast email afterwards, but it put December 31st, 1969 as the date on the live one, but on the test one, it was right. So I was concerned and confused on why it would have said a date 40 some years ago. And secondly, is there a way to print that page where you get your QR code that you can randomly put that around the house so
Yes.
that you can post it and they can scan elsewhere? Because I only had 1 person scan.
Yes, Charlene. I'm sorry about the 1969 date. I have no idea where or why that occurred, but as far
I put
as
in a help ticket.
did you good? Okay, maybe they can answer it. Chances are they might not be able to answer it either. But yes, your QR code, when you actually go to generate that, there is a view option or a print option. And you can just print as many of those off as you want and have those around the house. So at the front door, in the kitchen, on a table in the living room, whatever it may be, but you can have them everywhere. But the most important thing is you guys need to direct them to sign in. So with our open houses during COVID, there are forms that we should be completing to establish, health, right? For them to give a testimonial to their health condition, if you will. So either have those in print that they fill out before they come into the house or as they're coming into the house, or make those questions as part of your sign-in sheet, because you guys know you can customize the questions. Put the health questions right in there, okay? And you want to direct, always direct. Don't leave it up to them. Otherwise, it won't happen. Direct them to scan the QR code or direct them to your sign-in or to your iPad where you have, your Spacio open to close app opened, whatever it is. They expect it, everyone. People are attending open house, they expect a sign-in sheet. I mean, there are times when I don't have one and they'll ask for one. I'll say, I'll be honest with them and say, well, actually, if you and I don't hit it off here today, having your contact information really does me no good. My goal is to get to know you, build some likability, see if I have services that I can offer you. But they do, they expect a sign-in when they come into an open house. So please do not be afraid to direct them to the sign-in and ask them to sign in. You don't need a reason for it because right now during COVID, you have to have contact tracing, everyone. So those 2 open houses that I mentioned that I did right after the stay-at-home order, because the weather was good, we had a table outside the house, okay? Table outside the house where I had the consumer notice and I had the health screening form. And I asked them to put their phone number and email on the health screening form in addition to checking the boxes, signing it off. And no one gave me any trouble whatsoever with following that direction, okay? No trouble whatsoever because they expect it now. They know that contact tracing is necessary, okay? No trouble whatsoever. So at the table, and of course, we're limiting how many people inside. For really busy open houses, it's probably okay to have a group on the main level and on the second level, but if it's one group at a time, you're probably going to have a waiting list, folks. Okay, those 2 open houses for the 2 or 3 hours, I had to turn people away because when they would come up to sign in, I'd say, well, there's 6 groups ahead of you. We're giving about 10 minutes each. That's going to be an hour wait for you to get in. So plan accordingly, but absolutely direct them to sign in, everyone.
Wendy, for the Spacio, we're only allowed to do so many custom questions before we have to actually pay for it.
Okay.
Is there a way, and I don't know what the relationship is with Howard Hanna and Spacio. Is there a way that they could create those as standard questions so we don't have to use our custom questions for that?
I will put that request in, Julie. That's a very good request. I'm writing it down, everyone.
Thank you.
I think it's an excellent thing to actually have as not custom, but standard questions.
It's
Because if
standard
we
and
are,
required.
yeah,
but
because
they
standard is
sign in without
required.
it.
Absolutely. And if we're asking them to scan that QR code, then why can't those be standard questions? Absolutely. I will request that, Julie, and we'll see what we get.
I have actually had people come to an open house that did not want to sign in.
Oh, yeah. What'd you do? You're muted. Unmute and tell me again.
Oh, I eventually did get them to sign in.
Okay, good.
But you know, it was not really a good situation.
I'm sure not. Yeah.
No.
So some of you are putting in the chat that that, you know, if people are waiting, they can tour the outside and everything. Absolutely. So one of the reasons why, besides it was nice weather and we were post, you know, stay at home order, one of the reasons why we had, you know, a grill out back with hot dogs and refreshments and drinks, one of the reasons why is because we knew people would be waiting. Okay. And so we wanted them to have something to do. We even had games back there, yard games. There was a carriage house. They could go back to the carriage house and see that first and then come back up. But absolutely, that should be part of your planning, and think about that as part of your strategy. Good comments, everyone. Thank you for sharing. All right. I've held you over time. I appreciate your time and attention. Hopefully you got some nuggets to take away. All and more important is just hold them. Hold the open house. The people will come. Promise you, they will come. All right, everyone. You guys have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Be safe, be well, be healthy. Take care.
Thank you, Wendy.
Welcome. Bye, Jules.